All right, guys. Hey,
Hey.
greetings, everyone. Welcome. We just are seeing you now for the first time out in chat. Welcome. This is WatchHaus, our new preview edition of the show that we're doing on Wednesday nights now. We're going to be doing recap episodes on Monday
Super hype.
at 6 Pacific, and our preview episodes will be on Wednesday at 5 Pacific. Get stoked. We knew you wanted more WatchHaus, so we're giving you more WatchHaus. What can we say? I'm joined by my co-hosts,
And cohorts.
and cohorts, Brandon Thibbledork, Padilla.
Why did you make that extra noise?
I don't know, Brandon. Maybe in just a moment you can tell people why I made that extra noise. And I'm also joined by David, Elclope, Grove, the best, the beast. So yeah, we're gonna start off our show like we always do, resetting our watch. Brandon, because I made that extra K noise at the end when introducing you, maybe you should reset your watch first. What have you been up to on this April Fool's week?
Hi, everybody. I've been stupid this week. I've made several
Stupid.
mistakes, most of which you won't see, one of which you have definitely seen because I have a new Twitter account at Thibbledork with 2 Ks. Because I tried to pretend to be Anthony for April Fool's and change my birthday. But he was born in 1999 because he's a baby, and Twitter said, "Hey, that would have meant you were 8 years old when you made that account." And I said, "Nah." And they said, "No, you're banned. We've locked your account. You can ask for it back." And I did, and they haven't given it back. So
Oh man.
follow me at Thibbledork with 2 Ks.
Thibbledork.
And laugh and laugh and laugh.
It sucks so bad.
It really
There's,
does.
It is hilarious, but it sucks.
there, yeah. There was
I
a
panicked
hot
at work because I thought I hadn't been following you, and I was like, "But I've seen everything." I was so
yeah.
confused.
Yep, I've gotten that a lot. So, hey, are you? That's not yours. You're still you. What happened? And then I had to explain. I've had to explain it many times. It's great. There was a hot second where I just turned Contenders OW into my own personal account for April Fools, which was funny, but also got me yelled at by a couple people. Like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I said, "It's April Fools. Who cares?" And they said, And I said, "I also made this account. It's mine. I can do what I want."
Hmm.
And then I changed it back because I didn't want to make anybody upset.
It's fair.
Pretty sure I also lost like 5 followers, but it's got like 7,500.
They'll
So
come
like,
back.
come a little.
The quick
Yeah.
dab.
And besides me being stupid, I'm also going to school, which seems those seem sort of opposed. Like I'm in college, but I'm also stupid. Unless you've actually been to college, and you know that's very common. I've also been covering lots of breaking news because there's been a lot of breaking news, which we'll get to. And I have been handed many glasses of juice. Let's put it that way. Some I have spilled horribly. Some I have sipped daintily. Some I have chugged. So yeah, lots of juice all around. And that's been my week.
That was quite
Smile.
quite the reset your watch from Brandon Thibbledork.
At least you're hydrated. That's
I'm
the
very
most important
hydrated.
thing.
Yes.
Hey, what about you, Dave? What have you been? Have you gotten locked out of Twitter or drank
I've not.
any juice
No,
this
I didn't
week?
change my birthday. I'm still born in '92. That hasn't changed.
Okay.
Not quite as exciting as Thibble's week, obviously, but there's been a little bit of breaking stuff with the Defiant that I was able to get out, and there was some more breaking news today that I wasn't able to get out. But we'll cover that again today. But I was promoted at my other job. And it's involving working with, thank you, yes, snaps all around.
Wow.
It's involving working closer with the buyers at my company, where we kind of work with a lot of sports memorabilia and movie memorabilia and that kind of stuff. And I'm actually going to be traveling with the buyers out to Chicago next week to go to the Star Wars Celebration event, which is the largest Star Wars event. I think it's at least in the country. It might be in the world. But that's going to be super exciting. I've not had the chance to go to something like that, but it'll be really cool to kind of get that experience. So I'm really excited for that.
Awesome, dude. Jeez. Wish I could go to Star Wars things for my job.
Oh,
Man.
My girlfriend hates Star Wars. I never get to watch it
rip.
anymore. She says it puts her to sleep. So then I try to watch Star Wars, and she just does that thing girlfriends do, where they're like,
Yeah,
go,
we can
"All right,
watch
we'll
Star
watch
Wars.
some- God, do we have to? Can't we just watch like a K-drama instead.
Ooh.
I see.
I could watch the Rogue One Vader scene on
Oh
a
my
10-hour
God.
loop.
Oh, it's so good. And
Yeah,
she's
it
like,
is,
"What's the
yeah.
big deal? Who's
Peak
that
Vader.
guy?" Like,
What's the
"Excuse-"
big deal?
Yeah, I know. God,
All right. Well,
she's lucky she makes more money than me.
What about you,
Otherwise,
Goopy?
So I've been off the show for about a month. If you guys didn't notice, I've been gone. I've been playing soccer. I've been in a soccer league. I've played soccer my whole life. I haven't really been able to play since I've been in Waco. So got back into that. Realized how brutally out of shape I am. When you get married, the married men meta is great, but you also end up instantly out of shape. Your metabolism just quits working. You instantly have a muffin top. That's where I'm at. Running was very hard in soccer, so that was rough. But other than that, so I've just been doing some writing, trying to survive school and moving and life and all that kind of stuff. Been watching a lot of college Overwatch lately. The collegiate championship is going on right now. The round of 16 just happened yesterday and today. We'll talk about it more later, but been trying to kind of branch out into that realm a little bit and see. There are some college players in and around the Overwatch League and contenders, so always cool to talk about that. So yeah, that's really been it for me. But
Connor, I'm sorry, I made a joke about you in chat, and people are taking it serious.
oh my god,
How old are you really? Because you're not 36.
oh my god, unbelievable.
This was a surprise to me too. To be fair, so
Oh
Chad,
my
Anthony's
God.
totally buying it, so I need you to set the record straight. How old are you?
I'm 36 years old. No, I'm 25, guys. I'm born in 93. Gosh, Anthony.
yeah, the guy with the mustache is older than the 36-year-old.
True, I can't grow a mustache. All I can grow is a dirty
I'm
goatee.
19.
19. Good. Yep.
Yeah, totally 19. Yeah. Wow. How about Overwatch? Am I right, you guys?
Let's get to it.
Jeez
We got a lot to
Louise.
cover.
Peak professional show tonight, guys. Really fun.
What a game Overwatch is.
Yeah.
I'll let you intro this one.
Okay. Well, just so you guys know, April 2nd, 2019, and April 3rd, 2019 will forever be remembered in Overwatch League history as the great roster shuffle of 2019. These days have brought us more publicly announced and even unpublicly announced news that is just insane. So we got to talk about it a little bit at least. I mean, I don't know which one of these deals we want to go to first. Maybe we can.
I'll start us off.
Yeah, go for it.
We can go
Go for
down. We have a document, everybody. You can peek behind the curtain. We're using a Google Doc, and
Yes.
the first note on this list. I'll actually give you guys a double. I'll give you one that isn't on this list too. But first, I will go over the trade between Boston and Dallas for their Diva One tricks. I mean, Flex Tank players. Dallas have given up Richard RCK Canerva, formerly of Team Gigante, and Boston have given up Note Lucas. His last name starts with an M. Used to play for Toronto Esports, among other teams. Rest in peace.
Toronto Esports.
Yeah. MD, by the way, very respectable profession. Note has been one of the more consistent Flex Tank players like ever. He's actually really good, and I like watching him a lot. I like him even more now that he plays for Dallas. He's my favorite, behind Mickey. Bring back my boy Mickey. I was kind of confused by this trade, if I may get serious for a moment.
Yeah.
When I interviewed RCK during media day before the season started, he was like, "I'm super excited to be with Dallas. Other teams gave me offers, but I chose Dallas out of those teams because I like what they're doing here. I like that there are other Finns here who like speak my language and know what's up with all that. We've got ex-Team Gigante players, like the whole deal.
Yeah.
Lots of respect. Very excited guy, which was awesome because anybody who likes Dallas is cool with me. And now he's gone. I imagine, obviously, he did not have much say in that. That's something actually I'm going to be looking into. I'm very curious. But he's gone, like really fast. So I'm sure some money was exchanged. I'm sure both of these guys will still continue to do well on their new teams and everything. But it was kind of just like, we have a really good Diva player that we're very comfortable with.
Yeah.
Hey, we also have a really good player that we're very comfortable
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
Would you like to trade them? Yeah, sure. Fine. Okay. and then they just swapped. I don't really know what's up with that, but like it happened, and it should generally be okay. So those are my thoughts.
I think you're pretty happy with either result. If you're Boston, I think you're going to be happy with the flexibility RCK provides with that Sombra flexing. But if you're Dallas, I'm so excited for Dallas going into this next stage. Like you were discussing their schedule going forward. Note is just such an impressive player, and like he was a huge part even in their victories in stage 1. Just some of the stuff that he was doing mechanically with the D.Va, and then you go all the way back to season 1 where they had the first undefeated stage. Just such a talented player, and now you send that over to Dallas, who's got so much talent there. I think you can kind of see or say that these teams are kind of trying to go a more focused, concise route, because I think that filling that flex tank role can help choose the route you're going. Whereas Boston, I think, just was fed up with Sombra and wanted to be able to have a direct counter to that, maybe.
That's fair.
So
this trade's just so confusing to me. I think that in the same week that Boston signs Persia, this relatively unknown player that fits right in with their buy cheap, develop and sell high mentality, they then trade for RCK, who is already in the league, already proven. I'm sure, maybe this is total speculation, I would think he'd be cheaper than Note just because of Note's history.
I would agree.
And considering RCK's a rookie just in general.
Yeah. But with his Gigante history and stuff, he's still a proven player.
Yeah,
right.
No, he's at a premium for sure, but less than the proven high-performing flex tank. I agree.
Yeah.
I think, though, and Anthony brought this up in chat, I think Dallas wins this trade. And I don't say that out of a place of bias, as easy as that would be to say for me. I think the meta we are entering, whatever it is, quad support or quad DPS or God only knows what, I think Sombra's value will dip, and D.Va is still D.Va. She's not going anywhere.
Nope.
Barring some weird externalities I don't think anyone's prepared for. So I think Dallas saw RCK as a fantastic Sombra and one of the more equally capable, the more balanced flex tanks between D.Va and Sombra in the league.
Yeah.
I would say. I have no idea statistically, but he looked real good on both of them, right? Boston obviously did not play much Sombra, or if they did, it wasn't Note playing
memorable
all the time, and it wasn't very memorable, certainly.
Right.
They very much preferred, people are going to play Sombra into us, we're just going to play more aggressive goats, because we have fusions, and why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Right.
So they add a little flexibility in the Sombra department in case it comes up, but still have a good D.Va. Dallas is maybe moving away from the Sombra comps and everything and doesn't really need that too much. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just kind of an idea that I've had. But I
not to mention Sombra's getting buffed in this patch too.
A little, yeah.
Yeah.
But in general, there are going to be fewer targets for her. What made Sombra so good is that she could farm tanks for ult and have EMP so much. And now if we're moving away from tanks, that gets harder.
But we're not.
The targets are smaller and faster. You don't think we are?
I don't think so. Just from what we've been able to see in some of the college action and also in the Tournament of Future Champions, it's just the biggest shift here is just really the Reinhardt to Winston. I feel there is going to be some deviation, like we're seeing some Baptiste subbing in for D.Va, and some of that stuff. But I don't think that's going to happen right away in stage 2. I think that a lot of other than some of the teams that are maybe looking for answers. You'll have a lot of these middle of the pack teams that are probably going to stay consistent. I expect Toronto to still be kind of rolling with what they went with in stage 1, but then you'll have some other teams like maybe Washington that we might be seeing something different. So yeah, we'll be seeing some deviation, but I still think Goats is going to be a prominent strategy for these teams.
I think it'll be a sticking point for a good amount of time. I think the real distinction is going to be figuring out how long.
Yeah.
When do teams start figuring out true counters? If they figure out true counters. Who figures them out? How do you learn from those people? So on and so on and so on. I'll actually let that segue into the next move that I've just recently heard about that you might like here because it's about Toronto. So obviously, a note that we will discuss, that's not a note pun, by the way, a point we will discuss later on is that Stellar has left Toronto. He's retired. He is backing away from the game, whatever reason. Good on him. That's cool. It's fine. But that leaves Toronto under the 8-man minimum.
Yeah.
I have been told. Sources tell me
I need
This
the
is a
juice.
WatchHaus exclusive. Yeah, get in.
I'm right here. I'm
Toronto
ready.
is supposedly signing IM37 or Jin, who formerly just played for Second Wind, literally played a single game with them
Okay.
before being poached, before seeing other opportunities.
Man,
And
classic.
supposedly that's where he's headed. He's headed for Toronto.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard it from a couple people now, a couple separate sources, which makes me think it's legit.
Okay.
It's not people trolling me, hopefully. Otherwise, I've just made a fool of myself. Um, but regardless of how many people I've heard it from, I'm sort of confused. I mean, not that he's a bad player. From everything I've heard from, like, discussing with my boys with Triumph, shout out to Triumph Overwatch, by the way, and talking amongst other pros and people knowledgeable of who's up and coming. 37 has been looking great. I don't know what to call him shorthand. Do you call him I'm? Do you call him Jin? I don't know. He's relatively unknown. He was sort of like a ladder warrior who got picked up by Second Wind because Second Wind needed somebody after being poached for the 958th time.
Yeah.
They picked him up. He played a game with them. They did quite well, and away he went.
What
So
can you tell me about him in general? Or
Um,
tell the viewers, please.
He's a I believe he's a DPS player, a flex DPS sort of hit scanny type, and
Okay.
God, even then I'm not 100%. Like if you look him up, if you look up IM37 Overwatch,
Check it out.
his Liquidpedia page is like the 4th entry, and there's nothing on it. Nothing. There is no info out on him right now, other than that he played with Second Wind for a single game that I actually haven't reviewed fully yet. So I don't really want to offer too much in the way of speculation on how he plays.
Yeah.
But if what I'm hearing is true, it's good enough for him to make it into the Overwatch League. Which
Anthony's
is
saying he was a XQC's duo for a little bit. That's
yes,
interesting.
yeah. He kind of made his claim to fame was playing with XQC, being really good on ladder all the time, clicking heads, popping off, and so on. Second Wind being the team that they are, in that they are constantly poached and looking for people, often look at the ladder for players. Saw him popping off on stream or on the leaderboard or whatever and said, let's try him out. He did well enough to earn a spot on the team, started on the team, and then was gone.
Yeah.
So this could very well be
Yeah.
Jonak or Sleepy style situation where these Overwatch League teams just see him, say, looks good, give him a shot. He earns his spot in trials, and that's that. Which would be
Reddit
crazy.
seems to like him.
And this isn't something I'm super familiar with because I'm not familiar with the player, but this fits a lot in line with Toronto's seemingly their roster building philosophy of,
Definitely.
especially right now. I mean, you're essentially getting this player to get to cap. I don't know if this guy's intended to come in and start by any means, but you get him in, you obviously trialed him, he did well. Get him in, integrate him to the team, and then maybe go forward with that, but they probably got him at a good price if he's a Second Wind ladder warrior, I would think.
You imagine he comes in on the league minimum.
Yeah.
He's Korean. He speaks the language.
Mesh as
I
well.
think, pretty sure. That seems like a solid fit for Toronto. And like you said, it's not like they have to start him. They're not desperate.
Right.
They've got options, but he is a strong developmental asset.
Definitely.
So if that's the case, congratulations. That's ridiculous and awesome.
He's of age then, correct?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would assume. I don't know why you would. That would be an extra layer of like, sure you don't have to start him, but why sign him if you can't even play him right now?
Yeah.
Coming
Well, I
into
guess
a
that
meta
would
where
mean
you're
that they
really
have
going to need all
confidence in
that.
Asher.
That's actually that's
know,
very true. Yeah,
Because then they would just have to fill that cap limit. Once they've got that filled, they might be using they have the confidence in Asher, bring in the young talent, but that would only be if you couldn't play.
I believe he's of age. Again, his Liquidpedia has nothing.
Zero.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
It literally, you load it up and it's like, there's no text on this page. What are you doing here? I say, I'm trying to do my job. And then I leave. So there's your exclusive WatchHaus leak.
Gotcha.
Supposedly, congratulations, Jin IM37 Hong. You are going to Toronto. So cool. If so.
Yeah.
Cool if so.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Let's stick with Toronto now that we're here. Dave, there's a couple other things that happened in Toronto past couple days. You want to walk us through the two departures?
Definitely. Since we're kind of on the topic of bringing in the new talent, I'll talk about the talent that had left. The news broke today that Stellar was going to be retiring from Overwatch. From what it sounded like, I haven't been able to find an awful lot of information on it apart from just his announcement. It was personal reasons. Apart from that. We don't know if that personal reason has anything to do with just a desire to go home, or maybe he's burnt out. Maybe that first stage was just a little bit too much for him. All in all, I mean, I'm sure that he's going to be able to go back to Korea or wherever he's planning on going and have a successful streaming career if that's what he chooses. But he did do a great job in stage 1, as most brig players did. But I think the benefit of something like this happening is, I don't want to say that anyone can play Brigida, because that's not at all what I want to say, but it'd be different. Like, for example, I'm not exactly super excited about Boston in this first week of stage 2 with RCK, just because of the synergy that they're gonna be missing out on with Note gone. I know that Bridget's a super synergistic player, but considering that they do have Asher on their roster that has been playing with the team, that I'm sure this was brought up probably several weeks ago with the team, I would assume, kind of like what DeFran did with Atlanta, where he informed the team that he had intention of retiring. I doubt that this would be just a spur of the moment thing, that Stellar would just be like, I'm done, I can't do it anymore, unless there were some internal issues, of which I have heard nothing about. So I get, with that being said, right now Asher's slotted in to be Toronto's brig going into stage 2, and I'd like to see it, but I'm not super nervous or worried with Washington and Boston on the docket in stage 2 to start week 1. So that happened today. Just the other day, one of the coaching staff members from Toronto also decided to part ways with the team. I did have a chance to speak with the VP of Content and Communications with Overactive Media, and he did clarify that it was a mutual departure between the coach and the team. There's two ways that I'm kind of looking at this. With all the coaching openings in the Overwatch League currently, it's potential that the strategic coach for the Defiant maybe had some offers, or maybe was just impressing outright with Toronto. And frankly, with kind of the dysfunction that we've seen with a lot of the teams in the league, I won't name any names yet, I'm sure that coaches are at a premium right now. You know, when you look at teams letting go of Damon, for example, and immediately getting picked up, that's more news for later. You can see that coaching is at a premium for sure. And I know that the coaching staff with Toronto was such a tight-knit group. I mean, for Don was the strategic coach for the Toronto Defiant, and he handled all the team kind of meetings with them, whereas Bubbly was kind of a one-on-one coach with all the individual players. And then, of course, they have Winston's Labs, Roy, that's the analyst for the team, all working with Bishop. So it's all very close-knit, and all the information is going directly through Bishop. So I don't know if it was personal reasons for him to just want to return back to Korea. I know last year Bishop ended up leaving London for personal reasons to go back with his family. Right. So that's up for debate. I don't necessarily think that's really important information for us now anyways. But if Don is going to be looking at other rosters, then that could be a real shakeup for the league, which would be exciting. Yeah, I would think. So
definitely, yeah.
He does have previous experience with the Valiant, as well as experience in PUBG. So he might not even be looking at Overwatch. He could be honestly looking at other esports opportunities with different games entirely. Yeah. So
there's, be the highest tier Apex coach ever.
Yeah.
Boom.
I was gonna say, I think if you're a fan of the Toronto and a fan of Don specifically, I don't think you're upset about this move. I don't think, the way you've described it and the way the communication seems to have gone, I think we'll be seeing his name resurfacing whenever further announcements are made in the future. I'm guessing he's going to be a part of maybe a rebuild package of coaches for another team, or maybe brought in as a single coach. That's totally speculation. But I think it's good news overall.
There are more than a few teams looking for plenty of coaches right now.
Let's just look at the bottom 5.
He's got options. He's got options.
For sure. Most definitely.
Next team on the docket with a lot of big shakeups the past couple days is Atlanta. Obviously, big news is DeFran retiring, which is fine. He's going to go and do some streaming for the team. But that was a well-intentioned exit. There was nothing malicious about it. I don't think any Atlanta fans are upset about it. But it is staggering that he was leading the league in jersey sales, was in the top 3 in All-Star voting, and that guy retired. To me, that's just that's staggering.
That's a move of a guy who is confident in his assessment of his own mentality.
Yeah,
definitely. Which I think is literally the last thing I ever expected to say about Daniel Francesca.
But it's great.
This dude, what a turnaround for the dude. and I love it. I'm
What were
so
we saying
glad it
about him a
happened
year
the way it happened. What's up?
a year ago? What were fans talking
Yeah,
about? He was a
absolutely.
thrower. He was toxic. Now look at
A
him.
lost cause.
Yeah.
Anything you could think of, people said about Dufran and where he was going.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone expected this.
No.
Any of this. So
in his stead, Atlanta brought in Baby Bay from the San Francisco Shock.
The man.
You know, a lot of people had speculated what was going to happen to Baby Bay. There was, guesses all over the board of, he might go to a content creation role for them in NRG because of his personality. That may have been good. People were worried he was just going to be riding the bench because of the Shock's stacked DPS. But I actually think this is a really good move. I think he has a lot of the same heroes that Dufran does. I think Atlanta's clearly going for the angle that they want to be a personality team. They want to be likable. They want to be fun. They want to be out there on camera, calling the other team a feeder. I think it's a lot of the reason they brought in Dogman, a lot of the reason they brought in Baby Bay. So this is a really fun team to follow.
Most definitely.
Baby Bay fits really well into that. They also brought in, I never know how to say his name. Forward?
Just call him Fred.
Fred?
Just call him Fred.
Okay.
Nobody knows.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Second Wind getting poached, enters Fred. Formerly last night's leftovers, Second Wind, then poached to Gladiators Legion, where he'd only been for a month, like not long. I don't know how long he had been there, but it was not very long. And then he gets brought on to the Atlanta Reign, further just exemplifying more and more the scouting and coaching prowess of both Second Wind and last night's leftovers as T2 organizations in general. Someone please recognize that with money and give them money. I don't know. But
I think this was actually Second Wind's first indirect Overwatch League signing. Question mark. I believe it is. I don't think anyone like plenty of academy signings, like 10.
Yeah.
But none of those have translated up yet before Fred.
Yeah. That's awesome. I hope that this gives them even more notice than they already have. Blessings upon Second Wind. But I think this is a good pick. Fred was really good at Second Wind. Was a big part of that incredible year at the end of 2018, the season they had. He was a big part of that and subsequently got poached with most of that team at the end of that season. So all in all, I think this is good. I don't think Atlanta is going to bring him in and start him right away. I don't know if he's a two-way or a full contract player. I think he's full contract.
They didn't. Usually they've specified two-way before, like they did for. There was a recent
Funny
one.
Astro.
Yeah. That's the one. Sorry. Yep.
So I would assume he's a full player for them. But again, I think this is similar to a Toronto move where you bring someone in probably towards the league minimum, and you're going to develop him, and you see a talent in him. I think Atlanta also sees some personality in Fred that will be a part of their brand as well. So this to me makes a lot of sense.
I'm a little curious about this trade, not because Fred's not deserving or fried wiener, as they're saying in chat, or anything like that. I think he's fantastic. He's like really good. His diva play is astounding. Basically, my top three, or I suppose top four divas in North American contenders in no particular order were Fred, Hawk, Bernard, and Gods, who I think is great. I've followed Gods since he played with Seagull and Luminosity, for God's sake. But they had Hawk.
Yeah.
They have Hawk on Atlanta Academy, and he's really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, trials happen, all that stuff gets shaken out in scrims, but I don't know. It might have been a cheaper option for him. Or maybe they're going for, if Daco and Pokepo start struggling and they want to bring in a Western tank line, you sign Gator up, or you bring him in for a couple games you need him, and you've got Fred sitting there right alongside.
Exactly.
Reduces the language barrier, et cetera, saves you a little contract trouble, or maybe they just want to keep Hawk on Academy, so their Academy team will actually start winning some games. I don't know. It'll help now that they have a flex support player because they signed Bird. They signed Bird, sorry, and then Ice got signed to Uprising Academy.
Yeah.
Separate 4-letter names, they're everywhere. So it's an interesting trade, but overall I think it'll be fine. Fred's good. He's owl ready. He's been owl ready for a hot second. So I'm excited to see what he can do if he plays.
I think Anthony posted a really interesting question in chat about comparing Baby Bay to Inlayer. I'm honestly torn on that, Anthony, and the rest of chat out there. I think this is something, you would maybe think that Baby Bay is going to come in and immediately start, but I actually do not think that's the case. I think we'll see a lot of Inlayer in this stage. He's been practicing with the team longer. This is a communications meta for now, for sure. I think we'll see him, and I think, I don't want to be the person to say this, but if Inlayer plays really well and continues to play really well, Baby Bay might be
on the bench again.
Still on the bench. I mean, he's in a shallower bench and all that, but and maybe he'll be niche picks down the road. Again, this is a ton of speculation, but I think we'll be seeing Inlayer for a while. I think he's a good player, and I'm excited to see what he can do with more stage time, honestly. So I don't know what you guys think.
Oh, he's been popping off on his stream recently. Like, he's been having some crazy plays, and he's just looked sharp. So, and I know that's very different from playing with an organized team in an organized structure in OWL, but I mean, it's just exciting to see a player get the opportunity when you see that much talent in them. And the reality of it was, in this meta, Defran was going to play Zarya until the cows came home. So, especially after those crazy plays that he would help set up. But I'm excited. I think that this is kind of an identity exploration for Atlanta, really. They could use this, and they could be just fine and no changes need to be made, or they could be going forward and they might be like, okay, the synergy's a little messed up, we need to figure out what's wrong. And I think that's why you bring in a talented player like Fred, so that way you have those options going forward.
Yeah,
I think it's a question of competition within roles, which is always important. And I think it's a question of, at least for Baby Bay versus Enlayer, it's a question of hero pools. They are very similar, but by no means the same. Enlayer has shown a capable Zarya in certain play styles, and a very good Widow, and a very good Tracer, and a very good McCree. Baby Bay has also shown decent Tracer, decent Widow, very good McCree. His McCree
and the
is
best
great.
dance moves.
Yes, very good dancer. Very handsome, great Mateo sponsored fashion sense, the whole deal. But he's also shown a little more flexibility onto projectile heroes. He plays the occasional Pharah, Junkrat. I know I just said projectile, but I also want to bring up his Reaper. He's sort of like a Jake-ish style, kind of like a plays whatever you need him to play. He's got a good Soldier 76. And I think if the meta requires, so Enlayer is going to be good if it's like a sniper tracer, DPS heavy dive engagement style sort of meta. Baby Bay will be good if it's like you're going to have to play 6 different heroes this map, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're going to have to play Pharah to crack open first point on King's Row, and then swap to Reaper, and then swap to Junkrat, and then maybe have a pocket Widow to finish out the map or something like that. If you need to be able to swap to all that to be successful in this meta, Baby Bay, I think, will go farther than Enlayer, unless Enlayer has been grinded. Because Baby Bay has always been the guy who's like, I know I need to be able to play everything to be considered, so I'll do it. And he's done it. He's shown a lot of good looks on a lot of different heroes. Mm-hmm. So if that's what's needed, that's where he'll fit. So
I like it. So we've got 2 more here on the docket. Let's get
there was a lot that went down this week.
Yeah.
There's a lot. And this isn't even all of it. We're skipping over most of the contenders stuff.
I know.
And there's more coming. There is more coming. Follow us on Twitter. You'll see more.
Yep. Let's talk about really quick. Damon leaves Paris as their head coach. First reported by, I think, Halo, first reported this one. And then he ends up being signed the next day as the assistant coach in Dallas. So my initial reaction on this one, and I'll let you guys kind of talk about this or share your thoughts as well, but I think this is an extremely odd move. So if you're Paris, you're coming into the league and you need to win early. This is a GOATS meta. You're a European team. This is it. Win now. Stock up your wins for later. And you don't do that. So it makes sense that you're like, okay, maybe this is a coaching thing. Maybe it's a roster thing too, but let's start by maybe getting rid of the coach. That's a place to start. And so that to me makes sense. I just don't know why Dallas goes after this person. I mean, maybe just to have a European coach experienced with tank-heavy coaching metas, like that makes sense, but he didn't coach a European team to a winning stage 1 in a GOATS meta. like, I'm not. Damon's a great coach and has clearly proven his prowess through Team France and past experience as well. But I just don't. This move really confuses me for Dallas. I'm super high on Dallas right now. I think they've vastly improved. Coco leaving is a dagger, but other than that, like literally, great improvements all around for Dallas. But this one, I'm just very confused by. I'd be interested if you guys had any thoughts on if this is a good move. I think it is very questionable. If you guys have any thoughts.
You're the Dallas guy.
Yeah, I suppose I am, huh? I think this trade is a win for both sides, and I'll get into that. I'll start with Paris, right? As mentioned, they're not winning.
Right.
Stage one was you want to forget stage one if you're Paris, right? Wipe it away, let it go. So you drop Damon, and you replace him with Felix. His handle, I think, is Fefe. But Felix is a little more normal. I'll use Felix. You bring in Felix, who head coached for Eagle Gaming, of which many players have come to Paris, right? Mm-hmm. He's probably got a little bit of a closer relationship with those players. And in general, as a contenders coach, or a more recent contenders coach, he had his hands a little dirtier, a little more in there on the day-to-day strategic understanding of how to get his team to execute, right? Damon has always struck me, without knowing too much about him, he's always struck me as a very strategic, conceptual, thinking man's coach, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that didn't quite work for the European system, which after interviewing with several European contenders coaches is really not how they do things. They say, go play the game. We know you know how to play the game. We're going to tell you when you mess up really bad and why. And then we're just going to throw you back in until you start getting it right. It's less like X's and O's, more like, go. Oh, yeah, you lost that fight. Here's why. All right, get back in. And so on and so forth. I think Felix is much more that style. And I think it fits a lot more with most of his players, now his players. Yeah. So it's a win for Paris in the sense that they get a more direct, hands-on coach leading the charge specifically. I don't know what sort of hierarchy was established in Paris beforehand or anything like that. But now Felix is in charge, and he is going to jump in there with his sleeves rolled up. It's going to be interesting. May or may not work, of course, but it's a new look and a style that maybe some of these players are more familiar and more comfortable with than Damon's. Damon, as an assistant coach, gets to throw all of his awesome strategic theories into the wind and let the team catch them as they like. He will be very at home with the Janes and the Ticketees and the Arrows, the thinkers, the minds. They are very much that sort. They also trust Dallas as a team to execute, but want to make sure the teams understand the fundamentals and what goes in, why, not just what you do, but why you do it. Yeah. Damon, I think, will swim in a system like that and swim fast. So provided Dallas can get him acclimated and get him moving in that system well, it'll be a good look.
That's fair.
Not to mention the experience he's picked up with Paris and their traditional focus on tanks means that he will definitely have some insight on tank play, which is going to be his niche. Not to mention in Valiant and Immortals, he worked with Fate, who was kind of a pretty good tank. Yeah. So he's got a good pedigree of people behind him that he can pull. Okay. I remember when I was coaching so-and-so, they brought up this point. Right. I will bring this up with OG and Note and Mickey and so on. So it's you have to do some thinking about it to really see how this might have worked.
Yeah.
But I think once you do, it looks okay. Sorry, that got kind of long, but yeah.
You're the Dallas guy. I will trust you. That sounds good to me.
I agree.
I think Dallas is going in the cerebral direction, and they're proving it works. They're kind of like becoming the better Houston right now, which is tough to say as a Houston fan.
They've been the better Houston, please.
Okay, maybe, whatever. But yeah, I think that makes sense. That makes sense to me. I think we have one more move though that you have typed in the Google Doc, but I hadn't heard of. So is this another?
Yeah, no, it was very quiet. Because it's Washington, there was no graphic or anything. Though they did just hire a graphic designer.
Really?
I'll let you know. They hired a graphic designer.
Oh, cool.
I'm excited. It's going to be good.
They're now an official Overwatch.
They know how to crop images. They know how to crop.
Awesome.
And I'm so excited because that's job one. Um, so they Washington, getting back on track here, released their analyst Obasil, who worked with Last Night's Leftovers, among other jobs, prior to joining Washington itself. Um, it's an interesting move. I don't know what went into it. I haven't asked. I'm sort of close to some people in Washington, but that's just not, it wasn't a talking point this week. Um, he's gone. The Washington's original vision kind of allows for this because it's always been big genius Wizard Young and his army of analyst minions, right? Mm-hmm. Just his absolute horde of data crunchers and video reviewers and thinkers, right? So losing one doesn't seem like the hugest problem. I have no idea of his impact or workload, Obasil's, in comparison, say, to Avala or anything like that.
Yeah.
But he's gone. It doesn't. I don't think they really replace him with anybody. If I'm Washington, I just kind of trim. Maybe you need a slightly more focused approach in the staff quarters to really get things going. I would kind of lean towards trusting Avala in this context. Avala and Wizard Young tag teaming on that sounds real good to me.
Yeah.
And with these new changes, I think you really need to start boiling things down until you find that delicious victory syrup you're after. That's kind of gross. You get the idea. Though. I
victory syrup.
Yeah, right.
I like
whatever. I think this is not a bad move for Washington. I think overall, whatever they had wasn't working, and they know they need to make changes, and they're making changes. This may or may not even be the last change. I don't know, but it's something. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting to follow Obasil. I'm very curious about Wizard Young in general. He has all this kind of aura around him as being this genius, and it seems like when you're dealing with a person that's this much of a genius, that if they touch someone or work with someone, that they're like infecting them with a little bit of that genius. They see through the window and into this workshop of Wizard Young. So I'm wondering now that Obasil's worked with him pretty closely, I'm sure, if he can then go to another team and offer some of that wisdom to that team. If I'm in the Overwatch League, I'm perhaps going to be rebuilding my coaching staff in this next stage. I would give him a look. I think his past before this is also indicative that he would be a good pickup. But I totally agree with the Washington analysis, though. I think they need to get the victory syrup. They need to get it quick. So I agree with that.
That's totally a thing now, is it?
I guess so. But I think that's all the deals we're going to talk about for now. There are more going to be looming. You've seen people like Bad Pachimari and other people tweeting like it's not over yet. There's still more to come.
It's not,
and it's definitely not. Whether this is good or bad, we will have yet to see. No juice tonight on that. But before we get into next week's games, we at the Game Haus, we like to support semi-pro, T2 Overwatch, whatever you want to call it. We like to support contenders, collegiate, open division. We like to support it all. So we're going to talk about that a little bit here. I'm going to open up by talking about the collegiate Overwatch series, the collegiate championship, which is now it's a TESPA thing. So TESPA is Blizzard's collegiate Overwatch, collegiate esports in general kind of entity. This is partnered with ESPN now, this collegiate championship series, where now we're going to have 8 teams competing at a LAN in Houston in May to give these college players LAN experience for a prize pool. I'm super excited for it, but this is boiled down from a... Oh, cat. This is boiled down from, I think it was like 128 teams. It was some insane bracket. You can see it on Tesla's website. And we've gotten down to 16, which was just narrowed down to 8 today. Those 8 teams, I'll just rattle them off really quick, are Utah, Grand Canyon, Harrisburg, Rutgers, Maryville, Orange Coast Community College, gosh darn it, Carleton, and New Jersey Institute of Technology. Impressive that we have a community college and an Institute of Technology on that list, and the fact that Grand Canyon beat UC Irvine, which if you know anything about Irvine or Berkeley, that's a huge upset. It went to 5 maps. It was on Blizzard's stream. If you want to go back and watch some college Overwatch, that was an insane match. I think LaFawn and Necrov casted it. It was great casting too, all around, just really good production. So that's happening. That'll be happening in May, the Final Eight. I'm going to put out a piece soon about some players to watch from each team, just to give them some spotlight.
They're the future, you know.
I think
I'm very interested to see how collegiate starts to bleed into the path to pro and how it becomes integrated in that system as well. There's a lot of.
That's the next step when you think about it. Like get people going to school and being able to take advantage
It's gotta
of it.
be, yeah.
It's and keep the NCAA out of it.
Yeah, there's already there's already a national organization for gaming. It's like a NASC.
NAECS, I
That's
think.
it.
Or,
Yeah.
Good.
one of them.
So they're not quite the NCAA corruption level. I think they're still fine, but there is that.
Give them a
thing.
couple decades.
That's true. Yeah. But I think it was it Elk or Moth that came from Collegiate Overwatch initially? It was some name like one of those two. I thought I heard. Chat, you can.
I know Hypnot did. He's currently playing
Yes.
with Uprising Academy. Yeah, Moth came from WPI.
Okay.
Whatever that stands for.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
got it.
college.
So yeah, I know that there are people in and around Overwatch, definitely contenders. There's a Hypnot is playing for a contenders team, Uprising Academy right now, and he's on one of the
Guru
teams.
and Mac as well. Say chat.
Yep.
Yeah, good call. Yep.
So this is already a thing, and I think as we talked about, it will continue to be a thing. Might as well pay attention to them now. These 8 teams are going to have players who are getting LAN experience, which is super important for their careers, and seeing how they handle things will make them very scoutable, especially for those top 2 teams. So just something to keep an eye on, and I'll post updates on Twitter as much as I can, but especially in this off week of Overwatch League, it was great to kind of dig into that a little bit. So
Really.
yeah, but we've also got a lot of contenders news from Mr. Contenders, Brandon Thibodeau Padilla as well. So
I don't know if I'm Mr. Contenders.
you're Mr.
I'm one of them.
Contenders
I'll
Overwatch.
take it. I'll take it. Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's a little Overwatch League system called Contenders. It's pretty great. It's like a developmental talent league, type of deal.
Okay.
So I'm going to go over these, I guess, 7 regions. One of them split in 2 pretty heavily, and talk about which teams are doing well and so on and so forth. We're approaching playoffs for almost every region. We're entering weeks 5 and 6 and almost 7 in Australia next week, actually, which is pretty crazy. I'll start with the Pacific. Talon Esports, Nova, and Cyclone Coupling are all locked in for playoffs. They're looking real good. Global Esports and Jupiter are both close behind at 3-2. Xavier Esports and Kicks team are both 1-5, I think, 1-4. They're not looking good, but they're fighting for 6th place, and that's what it takes to get into playoffs. So at least one of them will make it, probably. Poor Patipan, man, I loved him so much when he played in the group stages of the World Cup last year. His team's struggling. I don't know what it is. I don't really get to watch that much Pacific Contenders because it starts at 4 a.m. and I don't hate myself. But in general, the team has struggled. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Talon is doing Talon things. But the last time they were doing Talon things, they also got knocked out of playoffs pretty early. So we'll see if that repeats itself or not. In China, we've only gone through 3 weeks of content. More games start up on Saturday, brought to you by Broadcast GG. Some academy teams in this region actually doing very well. BLG, Bilibili Gaming, which is the Hangzhou Spark Academy team, are currently like 1st overall out of the 2 groups. They're looking great.
That's good.
T1W, last season's champions, also looking very good. LGE Huya, the Chengdu Hunters Academy team, is like solid, looking really good, 3-0 right now.
I'm glad to see their teams are doing well in contenders,
Unlike Guangzhou's Academy team, who are like 4th or 5th in their group. Yeah, they're not doing so hot, but they've got a chance. Still early in the season.
Yeah.
Flag Gaming and Team CC, which is the Shanghai Dragons Academy team, are both also doing very well in this region. But there are also 12 teams in this region, split into 2 sticks. So it's kind of, there's still plenty of time for this to shake out in China. In Australia has had one of the most interesting seasons it's probably ever had. Because usually Australia is just like, the Drop Bears are good. The Drop Bears 4-0 everybody. The Drop Bears drop a single map in playoffs, but then win the grand finals anyway. The Drop Bears lost last week against Blank Esports.
Crazy.
Very close and very intense game. And then everyone was like, is Blank the new best team in Australia? And then Order came along and beat Blank by a lot.
What a mess.
So now people are like, is Order the best team in Australia? There are 3 5-1 teams in Australia at the end of week 6, which is huge. Blank Esports also just signed, thank you, Chase, in chat. They also just signed Damon, who used to play for the Shanghai Dragons himself, and is now playing for Blank Esports. If you need him, there you go. The Drop Bears recently signed a coach who used to play work with Chicken Contendies, which was cool. And then Order are being Order. They're very good. They have a player named Signed, and that guy is ridiculous, like one of the best Zaryas in the world in a meta that really requires a good Zarya. So that'll be interesting. And another by the way, for all contenders regions right now, they're playing on the old patch, the stage 1 patch, 1.32, okay. Right? When we get into playoffs in the next couple weeks, they're moving to the live patch with all the changes.
Yeah. And Baptiste, right?
And Baptiste.
Yeah.
They will have no more than a week to be ready for that. Just throwing that one out there. So that's Australia. It's crazy. South America actually is probably just finishing up their games now. Let's see. Low Key Esports and X10 Esports are both looking really good. Low Key is like a super roster made up of like half of each of the last 2 grand finalist teams, because why not? It's South America and you can do that. X10 have been surprisingly solid overall. Today's games were Isurus versus Clarity and Caverna versus Ints Esports, all of which fairly middle to lower the pack teams, but still plenty of space because you only need to be top 6 out of 8 to make it to playoffs. In Europe, there are 3 teams locked for playoffs already. There's like a solid top 3 wall of Gigante, British Hurricane, and Angry Titans. After that, the middle of the pack still needs some shaking out. Shoes Money Crew and 1 Point are both looking pretty good to make it in. I believe they just need 1 more win. Eternal Academy and Shoes Money Crew are fighting it out. Or sorry, I said Money Crew at first. I meant Morning Stars, the Samsung Morning Stars. They and 1 Point are looking good. Shoes Money Crew and Eternal Academy need to win, but they also play each other. And then they also play Young and Beautiful, who are basically dead. Feels bad. Yeah, EU has been a crazy region for the past couple seasons now.
It was Zenbest's old team, yeah? Oh, they'd be missing him.
A lot of teams are missing a lot of these players now that they're gone. Oh, let's see. In the North American Eastern region, Gladiators Legion came very close to beating Fusion University the other day, as many teams have. The plot armor is far too thick. It's never going to work. Yeah. They and Chicken Contendies are looking good in the middle of the pack to lock down the last playoff.
Connor's stoked.
Connor's very happy about that.
Yes.
Uprising Academy and the Montreal Rebellion are fighting for 6th place. Somebody's got to get it. Both of them have 1 win right now, and Bermuda. Moving on. North American West region is actually going on right now. I'm not sure which game is playing right now because if I load more than one Twitch tab, my computer will probably die. Square One, 3-1 Phase 2 today. That's a lot of numbers. Shout out to my boy Vowels, friend of the show, coach for Square One. They're doing very well. They just signed a new main tank. I didn't even get to watch and see if he started today. Progi has played for the German World Cup team, and then bounced around a lot of other teams. But consistent contenders level performer, solid. Envy are playing NRG today, which should be awesome. I think that game might actually be going on like right now. Looks good. Envy are going to win because we're in blue. After that, Atlanta Academy and XL2 are facing off. Atlanta Academy, a lot of new looks lately. XL2 recently lost Frill, who has just kind of stepped away. They have plenty of flex DPS players. They should be fine. But either way, that's going to be an interesting game. And to round things out, second gen versus Skyfoxes, which should be quick. Envy, Skyfoxes, and Square One, I believe, are all locked into playoffs after today, assuming they don't get super Omega swept, which hasn't happened. In Korea, final region here, Runaway and Gen G, the Seoul Dynasty Academy team, are pulling away, even though Gen G has been like horrendous up until this season. They're pulling away, but only because there are 4 teams tied behind them right now. All of them are 2-2, and we've got 3 weeks left to figure out who makes it. So it's going to be a very crazy end of the season in Korea. And GC Busan Wave could also sneak in with their one win if they do really well for the rest of the season, but I don't know if that one's going to happen. They've kind of been struggling lately. And that's Contenders.
All right.
Go on.
Thank you, Thibble, for that.
Thanks for the
Contenders
synopsis.
recap. If you want to know more about Contenders, there's an account made by the community. The community, mainly Brandon, saw that the main Contenders account, after I think Robert Wing was his name, right, had stepped down or got lost his job.
Yeah, he moved on to other things, and then there was just like a gap where nothing was happening, and I was like, I should make something happen. And now like almost 8,000 people follow it. Yeah. So we post like clips and like, hey, the games are starting right now. Here's who's playing today. You know, we have cool graphics done by like our awesome graphics team that I apparently have. They do an amazing job, and then I do my best to offer coverage where I can while balancing all the other plates that I balance. The whole team does a ridiculous job, and I would be hopeless without them. So
if you want to follow Contenders, follow that account. Contenders Open Division. They've even tweeted some collegiate stuff. Definitely follow that account if you don't right now. So yeah, but this show in the future will probably be like a 30-minute show. We're like at an hour, and we still got to talk about next week. So
it's the first episode. We'll trim it. We'll figure it out. We'll distill as we go. This one was kind of loosey-goosey with it. We're having fun.
Yeah, we didn't have a Monday show this week too, so it's like we got a lot to talk about. I've been gone for a month. Come on, guys. All right.
Yeah, we're catching up. We're having fun. That's okay.
Exactly. I'm out of water though.
Rip.
That sounds like a you problem to me.
Anyway, so we got Stage 2, Week 1 coming up next week. I don't want to try and tackle all of Stage 2 in this little 15, 20-minute bit here. Let's just talk about Stage 2, Week 1. All right, team? So we're going to go day by day, kind of look at the games, give you a game to watch each day, because realistically, the way the Overwatch League schedule is, if you watch every game every day, you're probably going to die. So just don't try and do that, unless you're Brandon and you want to. But
that's my job.
Yeah. So we'll give you a game to watch each day and some other games to maybe keep track of a little bit here and there. So I'm going to start us off with Thursday. Thursday we've got a pretty good docket of games, actually. We start off with the Fusion versus NYXL. That could be bad, but it could be really close too. People don't really know where to place Fusion right now. But still an interesting one. But the game to watch is actually the game after that, starting at 7:45 p.m., according to the Overwatch League website. That is going to be against the Boston Uprising against the Atlanta Reign. These are two teams that are going through a lot of shifting, a lot of talks right now. Two teams very much, I like what you said, Dave. They're in the middle of like an identity quest kind of thing. They're trying to figure out who they are, what they are. For Boston, because of rebuilds, and for Atlanta, because you're so new. These two teams play in a new meta where Fusions won't get to do his Reinhardt stuff as effectively, as dominantly. He's going to have to maybe play Winston, so we'll see how that goes. And Atlanta obviously not having DeFran, having Inlayer and Baby Bay and working all that out is going to be very interesting to watch. So that is the game I would watch if you can.
Most definitely.
All the games are interesting, though, because after that you have Shanghai versus the Gladiators. This is another game that's super interesting. Both these teams are very middle of the pack. Gladiators should be really good, and people think they're going to be really good. Same kind of goes for Shanghai, obviously having a historic year this year, winning more than 0 games, doing good. Gamsu's solid. Gegri's our queen. I mean, you got to root for that team, so that's a very interesting one to watch. And then we round out the day at 11:15 p.m. Central Time with the Guangzhou Charge against the Paris Eternal. It's good.
I forgot you were in Central Time. Yeah. I was like 11:15. Oh my god.
Yeah, Texas.
Yeah, no, for you that's late. West Coast, Best Coast, but.
So this will be interesting because, like we said, Paris needed to bank their wins early if they were going to make a playoff run and be a legitimate team. They did that like the first week, and then have so far kind of struggled to do that. So Guangzhou has looked surprisingly good. I mean, they have given Vancouver their best game outside of the shock in the finals. So this will be an interesting one to watch as well. But definitely, if you can, check out that Uprising Reign game for sure. But that's just Thursday. So who's got Friday?
Oh,
I got the last two, so I'll let you get this one. Go ahead.
Cool. That sounds fine to me. So Friday is going to be just as exciting as Thursday, honestly. I mean, I'm just hyped for it to be back. So like any game to me is going to be driving me nuts. I thought I was Saturdays, so looking
You
over
wanna-
to.
Okay.
I thought I was, but
Go for
that
it.
was my mistake.
No, I got it.
Okay.
We got this. We're going to play this on the fly. I totally got
Okay,
it. I
cool.
actually have a game that I really want to talk about in these four. I'll start, though, chronologically here. Let's
Cool.
go with New York versus Atlanta. It's going to be a very interesting look. If we see goats, these are two fairly capable goats teams. If we see not goats, we could see a little guy named Pine, a little guy named Sabioli, maybe. I think it'll probably still be a lot of goats, but it'll be good goats at least. Philly versus Houston, you got a wee bit of a rivalry there. I'm sure Carpe will say something
Wait a
spicy.
minute. Dibble, I think you're on the wrong week.
I think you're on the wrong week.
Am I?
I think
I'm,
so.
how am I on stage 2, week 3? How did I get to that
I
page?
was like, did he just
I was like,
misspeak?
I'm looking into the future, you dudes. I'm living in year
Prophetic.
3000.
Dibble's living in 2025
Let's
right
go,
now.
dude. I was about to talk about freaking Valiant versus Washington. Who's going to get their first win or something?
Oh
Fine.
no.
Man, okay. Well, let me actually do my job properly then. Let's look at London versus Florida.
Interesting game.
Right. Let's look at Washington versus Toronto. I'm just kidding. That should be very interesting. It'll be a really good game. I think we might be surprised by Florida, let's say. We might see some things that we aren't seeing at the moment from Florida. And that might come into play against a sort of London Spitfire. I think London will really start to kind of bring things back around. I think they're a team that really needs a little bit of time
Definitely.
to gel. So hopefully they've used the stage break well and have been working hard and haven't broken their wrists. Washington versus Toronto. This game, to me, looks a little bit one-sided, I guess. This will be our first chance, though, to see Arc in action.
True.
See
Yes,
how that
that
goes.
is very
That'll be
exciting,
very
honestly.
interesting to see.
Mhm.
If it happens to work very well, Washington could pull this away. They were looking a wee bit scary against teams not named Florida for a second, for like half a second. If Arc can remind Jonas that Shift and Mouse 1 are not the same, we could see an interesting game. Or we could see a new record for Reinhardt deaths in a game or something cool like that. Oh no, game 3. Oh dear.
Oh.
Oof. Can we get some oofs in chat? Oh dearie. San Francisco are going to be, let's say, upset. Pretty upsetty. And the Valiant are the nice squishy punching bag on which they can take out all of their ire for losing Stage 1 finals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's going to be rough. I'm also predicting that the LA Valiant are going to be giving us some new looks coming into Stage 2. Whether or not that will be able to come up against the freaking juggernaut that is San Francisco remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But it's a chance to maybe see something new from the Valiant, and I'm cool with that. The Gladiators versus the Soul Dynasty is a great game to finish out the night with. Holy cow.
Yeah.
This game last stage was very good, as I recall, and traditionally has been very good. You've got the Fisher grudge match once again.
Yep.
There are not going to be very many teams. You can't say that about here in the next couple of years. Overall, this will be a very interesting game. If we start seeing some flex compositions, I expect both of these teams to be on the forefront of those flex capabilities. Lots of Wrecking Ball, maybe some Doomfist in there, something fun. And if not, some decent goats. Soul have shown us two very different
Definitely.
looks from two very different roster combinations. And I believe the Gladiators are will be capable of matching that sort of strategy, let's say. Should make for a very interesting game. And that is the actual Friday I was supposed to be going over, Friday, April 5th.
Really quick prop bet on this one. I love my hot take prop bets. If you had to pick an upset, not counting Gladiator Soul, because that's pretty 50-50. If you had to pick the Valiant, Justice, or Mayhem to win this week, who do you pick right now? Rapid fire, go.
Justice.
Justice.
Like bias, I admitted bias, 100%. But I think Washington were really putting up some fights. They choked a couple away. They choked more than a
As you
couple
do.
away, as one does. But I think I know rather Washington have been very, very busy. They are a happy team. They are a team that is gelling very well together and having fun. But that doesn't mean they like getting their asses beat.
Right.
Yeah.
They have taken this time to, do more than roast some marshmallows. They're working. And I think with the new piece they've gotten, and this like kind of trimming and pairing and really focusing in on what they need to do,
Victory syrup.
There's a chance.
Victory syrup. Not to mention with Stellar leaving, retiring.
Also
Sorry,
true, yeah.
Don leaving. There could be some synergy problems. But yeah, I mean, I still think that it will be a very good game. I think it's going to be closer than people realize. When I was doing my predictions for this, I learned my lesson in saying that Toronto would 4-0 Chengdu in stage 1. God, I was on edge that whole game, and there's no 4-0s happening, or not many 4-0s happening this week. I don't think. I think a lot of teams are going to be really being able to pull something out that's going to really throw some people off, and I think Washington's going to have a real shot.
You remember those like first 2 weeks of the stage, where like every game was a 3-2, and we were staying till midnight and all that stuff? I predict a good amount of that in the first couple weeks of this. I really do. I think that is a definite possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe for the same reasons, maybe for very different reasons. I don't know. But I think these sort of like figuring it out weeks are map 5 weeks.
I was just going to say the same thing. This is a 28-game season. 7 games are already gone. You've got 21 games to do it. Teams are going to be needing to do it now. So I think upsets in Game 5s are very reasonable to consider. I would actually pick Florida over London, just for the sheer fact that Florida is going to be potentially unscoutable if certain...
Yeah, that's actually very true.
Certain juice is there, and London's looked pretty average, and they're not playing Bird Ring, so that's a bummer. So
plus their graphics, am I right?
Yeah.
Like they just don't have the graphic power to be able to overcome Florida.
Of course, it matters. So yeah, I think whether any of those upsets happen or not, I think we're very right in suspecting that there could be a lot of Game 5s, a lot of urgency from these lower fourth teams trying to make playoff pushes. So just a quick little side bet. You know how we like those here at WatchHaus. So Dave, take us through Saturday.
Sure thing. So Saturday's going to be opening up with another match or rematch between Philadelphia and Florida. And has anyone heard from Boombox? Is Boombox going to be ready? Is everything okay? As long as Boombox is playing, I'm picking Philly.
He walks into, let's put it this way, Boombox walks into rooms and says, I'm undefeated. That's just what he does these days. That's just how he is.
I think that's going to be one of the games that's just going to be kind of an easy pick. I mean, if you're going to be doing the pick'ems on high noon, it's going to be ones where you can even see the tendencies of people picking that game. The game after that is going to be another interesting one, and I'm sound like a homer because it's a Toronto matchup. Toronto's going to be having another rematch with Boston, and this time I don't think the headline for this is Neko against his former team. Yeah, that's exciting again because I'm sure that Boston would like to have another crack at Neko after the I forgot to change my spray incident. But I'm definitely excited to see Boston's changes and see, I mean, it's Kelix, and I guess you could still count Aim God as an original. But I'm really excited to see what Boston does, and especially because I believe that this meta is going to be heavily favored towards Winston. I look at teams like London, and I look at teams like Toronto, because Yakpung is a much better Winston than he is a Reinhardt, and I think that was kind of evident in Stage 1. He had some really nice moments on Reinhardt. There was a nice grav bomb shatter combo against New York on map 4 on Dorado from Stage 1 that was very memorable. One of the top 5 moments of Toronto's Stage 1. Check my articles out. I'll put that in chat. But I think that's going to be a good matchup because, once again, the Stellar leaving and that kind of stuff, we don't know whether that's going to have a big impact. But one thing that I think might surprise people is we may see Toronto, not necessarily in this matchup, but in their first matchup with Washington, we may not see Roki start. Roki was subbed out in their playoff matchup against the Shock, looked rather shaky in the playoffs against the Shock. The whole team looked pretty shaky against the Shock, to be honest. But Aid came in and didn't wow anybody, but Aid has played in that main support role before. And I guess it's going to depend on who's more comfortable with the Lucio changes. So with the Lucio changes, as we know, his speed boost got lowered, which is going to kind of slow any sort of Reinhardt push down. But that's why we may be seeing that shift towards Winston. So with Fusion's not necessarily a Winston I guess he's not a Winston one-trick by any means. He's definitely a Ryan player. It'll be interesting to see how those two teams mesh with that. The next game is going to be New York versus Shanghai. Unfortunately, I'm going to be picking New York in that one. There's not really much else for me to say with that one. I'm sure New York in this first week against Philly and against the Dragons are really going to be kind of antsy to get their names back in there. As long as Nene can hit those grabs. Those grabs get hit. I think that they can win some fights.
Gotta be careful about that.
Don't go chasing Sombras. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Yeah, seriously.
Don't go chasing Sombras.
The match that I'm honestly most looking forward to, though, is this Chengdu versus Paris match. I don't know if people saw well, I'm sure plenty of people saw our Game Haus power rankings, but several of us decided that Chengdu was going to be a little bit more involved this stage, and I believe it was the last time that I was on WatchHaus. I had Chengdu represented by a piece of paper, and I threw that across the room. Because I was just kind of done with their stage one. With the matchups that they had, with the meta the way it was going, I wasn't really convinced that they were going to be able to contend in stage one. But stage two is here, people. And stage two does come with some damage or some DPS changes. And although it's not going to be the mainstay, and Goats, in my opinion, is still going to be very prevalent, Chengdu's crazy. They are so fun to watch. Ameng's a nut. He's an absolute Giga Chad in the neutral. It's nuts. So I'm really excited to see what they can do. But most of all, I really want to see what Paris can do as well. And I think that this is going to be a good matchup for Chengdu against a team like Paris that's struggling, that could still stay GOAT-centric. If Chengdu can really show what they got against another GOAT-centric team, I'm not worried for Chengdu this stage against GOATs. Yeah. I'm going to be worried about what teams are going to do to stop them, frankly. So that's the match I'm most looking forward to. My cat is messing with my mic right now. I'm sorry.
Chengdu games are going to be a clown fiesta in the best way.
Yes.
And I am.
Yes.
So,
Wrecking Ball's getting buffed. I mean, he can armor while moving now. Ameng,
he doesn't have to stop for anything.
Ameng will never have to stop. He'll be in ball the entire match. Ultimate Giga Chad.
Catch him in the back line.
Everywhere is neutral for Ameng.
The actual potato. Anyway.
Am I doing Sunday? Would you like me to do Sunday?
Sure, we can. Yeah, okay. I'm down.
Okay. We're starting off with a crazy one, San Francisco versus Guangzhou. Much like the game just before, I think this will be another entertaining clown fiesta as opposed to whatever Washington versus Florida was. It's going to be lots of DPS, I think. I think San Francisco knows exactly what they're going to have to prep for when they come up against Guangzhou. And I think Guangzhou in general are going to have just a lot of fun. Just a real amount of fun. Put Happy on Widow, put Eileen on Tracer, or maybe Hoppa on Tracer. That's kind of how it's been going. Go crazy with it. And that's going to make for a good game. It'll be close, I think. I think San Francisco still takes that eventually. But, maybe a map or two, a couple close ones. We'll see. Atlanta versus London. Man, I don't know. I'm pretty low on the Spitfire right now, I must say. Yeah. But anything can happen, man.
But no Dufran.
I think no Dufran.
I don't know.
Atlanta could be really struggling this week, or they could just keep moving. London could be really struggling, or they could flip the switch and remember that they won last season.
Yeah.
Which should make for an interesting game. I don't know if it'll be close necessarily. We're going to kind of have to see both of these guys' first games of the week to really get a good feel on this one.
Gesture on Winston.
Gesture on Winston.
Big X factor.
Man, that is true. Ooh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm very curious to see how that goes overall. But if Winston Goats, or Floats, as it's apparently called, is going to be the soup du jour, then London could be pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good. Vancouver versus Hangzhou, the art and the graphics will be good. The game, probably not so much. Yeah. It could be. I think Hangzhou have had sparks.
Stop it!
Thank you.
Stop it right now.
Tip your waitresses. But Vancouver's Vancouver, and I love them. And I think they're going to do very well.
I will interject. Only hope for that matchup, if we're really in this Floats Winston, is if Goushway can best Bumper, because I think Goushway may have a better Winston than Bumper. If it comes, it's not going to be that black and white. But if it is, I'm taking Goushway every time.
And no matter what, the amount of Chad energy.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yes, oozing with Chad.
I think the only higher concentration would be Bumper versus Ameng or Bumper versus.
Yes.
Those would be
absolutely
spicy meatball.
Possibly interesting thing to watch.
Could be very interesting. It'll be entertaining, I think, no matter what.
Yeah.
Whether or not the scoreline will be close is another thing
Yeah.
entirely. And the last game is going to be another Clown Fiesta. I'm
Absolutely.
undecided as to whether or not it'll be a good one or not, but it'll be a Clown Fiesta.
It'll be good for some team.
Certainly. One or the other. We'll see. I'm torn on that one. I like both teams a lot. I think my understanding and prediction of this game will be factored heavily by Washington's first game against Toronto.
Yeah.
If they put up any sort of fight against Toronto, they could maybe have a chance against Chengdu. But at the same time, Chengdu's so chaotic. Like it's hard not to root for them. So a lot of games I'm torn on, but overall, I think Chengdu will take that.
Yeah. So overall, we've gone about 40 minutes over our aimed time. We've doubled up this week. So just as a quick housekeeping reminder, we're going to be doing recap episodes that are going to be a little bit more lengthy, a little bit more analysis heavy on Mondays at our usual time, 6 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to be doing shorter, hopefully, little preview episodes on Wednesday at 5 Pacific, the same time that this was tonight. It'll usually be 30 to 45 minutes. Please.
We'll revise.
Yeah. So
I'm actually, if I may speak on that for a moment.
Yeah.
I'm thinking actually of developing some sort of contender-specific show at some point in the week.
Yeah.
So I can take that little like contenders minute that's actually 10 minutes and turn it into its own show. Because I really want to talk about that stuff,
Yeah.
but there's hundreds of contenders teams and players, and it takes a long time. So kind of keep an eye out for that. I think trimming that out of these sorts of shows will really help with that sort of 30-minute time limit we're trying to impose on ourselves. So keep an eye out.
Cool.
That's all.
Anything else from you guys before we close it out? Everything good?
I guess I'll just say one thing. The fellow TGH staff, or all the rest of the TGH staff, decided to really lay into me about my initial Guangzhou ranking, and I do apologize to the staff members. That was a mistake, and I have since changed said ranking, if anyone was missing that.
Peer pressure do it, Dave. Wow.
You know, just gotta listen to some people that may know more things than you.
Some good wisdom. With that wisdom, we will close out our episode this week. Big thanks to Thibble and Dave for being on the show with me this week. Thank you all for joining us. This has been a really fun episode. Sorry it's gone so long, but it really has been a good time. It's good to be back in the swing of things. And we will see you again on Monday. Some combination of people will see you Monday. And we'll see you again this time Wednesday. So this has been WatchHaus. And yeah, thanks guys.
See you
Follow me on
around.
Twitter, please.
Yeah.